So I'm here in Waterloo Park with Meike Ziervogel, the publisher of Peirene Press, and this is our very first interview and probably the hottest day of the year. So we'll keep the chatter succinct and direct. So Meike is a writer and a publisher, originally from Germany, has been here since 1986, where she studied Arabic language and literature. And we'll get onto her career as a journalist right away. So could you tell me a little bit about the path that you led before you started Peirene Press in 2008?
Yes, so I studied Arabic for 4 years at SOA, School of Orient and African Studies. I then completed an MA and started to work in journalism, Reuters, in London, Agence France Presse in Paris, eventually also Financial Times Television when it still existed. But I really always loved fiction writing, and especially working in journalism. In fact, I went into journalism because I thought that will satisfy my craving for writing. And then I realized very quickly that what I am interested in is actually the fiction behind the facts, so to speak. And I then started writing fiction in my 20s, and I have a whole drawer full of unpublished stuff. So it wasn't that I just suddenly started writing.
And so then you've been in London since 1986. In 2008 you set up Peirene Press. What was your initial aim when you set it up?
My initial aim was that I was really to, well, it's still the same aim actually, I haven't changed my aim, is when I came to London in '86 I very quickly realized that there isn't much translated fiction in this country, and having grown up in Germany I've read you know, translated fiction, German fiction. I never asked the question, where's the author from? In fact, I think it was only when I arrived here in this country that I realized there's a huge, apparently huge difference between translated fiction and indigenous fiction. And I can't even, you know, in some ways I also could see why that was the case, because each time I picked up a book which came from another language, it jarred. It was very, very poorly translated. So I would go back and read the German translation and realize that it isn't the book itself, but it's the translation. And so I always felt very passionate about the fact that I'm living here in a country which finds it difficult or challenging to look at other people's narrative. And I wanted to address that even in a very small way.
And you touched upon that, you know, you haven't changed your primary goal.
Yes.
And this, I think, as someone who's followed the company for several years, I think that's part of your success.
Yes. In
that you stuck to your guns and you kind of followed through and had this sort of, but
I had a vision.
You had a vision. And, you know, in business terms, they always say you'd have to kind of find your niche and fill a gap.
Yes.
But again, it's probably, without kind of repeating ourselves, what gap do you think you filled now, 6 years on?
Again, I mean, my vision was very strong, and I stuck to that vision. So the vision was to bring translated fiction to this country. I also knew from the start it will be books under 200 pages, because I'm passionate about the short form. So the novellas or short novels. I then also knew that I will have a very strong branding, because I won't publish English-speaking authors. Not because I don't like them, I think there are a lot of brilliant authors around, but because there are enough publishers who do this in this country. So I just wanted to concentrate on translated fiction. And that also meant that I had to build a very strong branding. What has, however, changed or developed is what I wasn't aware of at the beginning, is how much effort and work I will have to put in to build a community of book lovers and readers. But that's also been the surprise, because of course I started off with the passion for literature. But what I really have become passionate about is building that community. I mean, as you know, I run a literary salon from my own home. We run supper clubs, we publish a newspaper, we run pop-up stalls. So the direct contact with actually the readers and seeing how they respond to the text is thrilling for me as a publisher, but also, of course, as a writer. I have to say, I mean, running a publishing house has helped me a lot in terms of realizing that what fun it is actually for an author, for me as an author, to meet the public. And I often think if I had actually managed to publish or find a publisher for my own writing before I had started running Peirene, I think I would have been a very unhappy author. I would not have been able to do what I'm doing now, because I wouldn't have realized that this is actually a brilliant opportunity. I mean, I actually love when I now go and do readings with my own books. I love hearing what people make of my writing, and it's not about right or wrong that I then say, oh, you know, but I meant this or so on, because I think writing is open for interpretation, and I'm just fascinated what people see in my stories. Sometimes, you know, I think, wow, never crossed my mind, and I take learnings from that. So
we were talking about expansion, and like you said, obviously a lot of people think, oh, you should publish more books, that's how you grow. But you see it the other way around. You know, what you need to grow is how many people read your books.
Yes.
We've talked about this previously. What is your view on the changes in the publishing industry over the last number of years? And how do you see how you fit in?
Well, it's very exciting. Without those changes, I don't think Peirene could exist. You know, so it's a cowboy land out there. And but that's also, again, I come back to this idea, that is what makes it so creatively exciting. I'm not sure if I had become a publisher 20 years ago it would have satisfied my creative urges. Because I think in order to actually work on both levels, as a writer and as a publisher, there has to be overlaps. It can't just be that publishing is a pure business thing. I mean, of course, I have my business hat on there, and I sometimes feel like I'm then totally left, you know, mainly left hemisphere orientated. Well, if of course writing is much more right hemisphere orientated and much more sort of claustrophobic dialogue with yourself. But there have to be overlaps. It can't be just black and white, because otherwise, you know, switching your brain from one hemisphere to the other would become really painful. So I think there are absolutely fantastic opportunities. Now I think also publishing is changing beyond recognition, and none of us has a clue where this is heading. But it's not going to die yet.
I found hardest over the last 5 years is there is a pressure to be what they call commercial.
Yes.
What does that mean? You know, and there is a certain element within the mainstream area of this industry which is reproductive. It's just kind of reproductions of things that are successful.
Yes.
And that can often change the course of a company that has a successful book, but it can also change the course of the industry for a few years. And navigating that and staying true to your original vision at times.
Yes.
You know, you kind of, myself, who as a small publisher, instead of focusing on a particular genre or a couple of genres, I've gone across genre, and then it does lead to a lot of confusion. So I think that is a key element of the Peirene brand.
Yeah.
But
it's also about authenticity, I think. You know, because if you, I mean, I publish what I really believe in, and therefore I can try to persuade and can try to expect other people to become passionate about it. Or, you know, when I say this is a good book, I really believe that this is a good book, and I'm slightly then outraged if you say to me, well, I don't like it, or, you know, I don't want to read it.
I think we'll come to the last question. This series is in some respect aimed at people who are interested in publishing. What advice would you give to people who are thinking about starting their own project or company?
Have a vision, a strong vision, and stick to what you set out. Do not change. Because then you start giving diluted messages. It's if you decide to publish one book a year, publish one book a year. If you decide to publish 10 books a year, publish 10 books a year. Whatever you decide to do, think it through first and then stick to it.
I think we've talked plenty, and I'm glad it, well, I was kind of hoping it would rain, actually, to be honest.
Oh, really?
On the hottest day of the year. But it's cooled down a little bit in Walpole Park. Well, thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Let's close it there.